Harry, if you look at what you've given the street, you've hiked your guidance here, and you're still not seeing investors react to the extent that you would think if you were saying things are going to be better in the future. How do you meet investor expectations at this point?
Well, first off, thank you for having me on this show today. We are really thrilled with our performance in Q1. We saw revenue up 20%, yields up 16%, great demand both in ticket revenue and onboard revenue, and we doubled our EBITDA from last year. So these are all great indicators of the performance that the company did in Q1. I think anything that happened with the stock today, perhaps just a small-time reaction, but we are super focused on the long term. We raised our EPS guidance for the year. We raised our yield guidance for the year. We are super happy with the cruise guest and the cruise guest on NCLH.
Speak through now what the competition looks like at this point for cruise goers. When you look at your customer base, are you finding that more people are coming in that are new either to the cruise industry or new to Norwegian? What do the numbers say?
Sure. So to answer the first your question first, our competitive set is really hotel chains. If you think about the North American market for vacations, cruises makes up barely 2% of it. So I know you had the quote from my friend Jason on the top of the show. He's not really our competitor. Our competitor are the Hiltons, Marriotts, Hyatts, IHGs of the world, because that's really where the guest has choice. And we believe that cruising represents both an incredible value compared to hotels and also a much better guest experience. Our ships are always well maintained. They give a consistent product. We go to fantastic places around the world, both close to home and far away. And we really see guests continuing to favor cruising as a vacation. So new to cruise is up a few points, new to NCL is up a few points. We're definitely seeing record interest in a cruise vacation.
It's interesting because it's not just this idea of Royal Caribbean and you guys versus the hotel chains, as you've been saying. Actually, today is an interesting day. There's another cruise operator going public as well in one of the biggest IPOs of the year. How do you see more entrance into this space, particularly when it comes to dollars from public investors?
I think Viking has done a great job over their last few decades in both the river cruise space and the ocean cruise space. And I think anything that elevates the cruise experience is good for the industry. I think at the end of the day, the cruise industry is healthiest when it has good participants with great product and great guest experiences on board. Certainly, Viking delivers that. Of course, NCLH does as well. And we very much look forward to these new entrants continuing to build demand for the industry in public. From a financial investment community, I think any good financial performer in the industry raises the perception, if you will, of cruising in the financial markets. So we're thrilled from that perspective as well.
It's interesting because when we look at your numbers versus the estimates compiled by Bloomberg, a lot of beats there. As we've been talking about, Harry, passengers carried and even on operating capacity as well. But the revenue is where things felt slightly short of expectations. What do you think was the biggest contributor there?
Really, I'll emphasize what you said. We beat on pretty much every key metric, net revenue, margins, EBITDA, EPS across the board. So we were very pleased with our performance. We beat both guidance and consensus. Revenue really talks to some of the items that we make a small margin on, like air. And I talked about that in the call this morning, that we sold guests slightly fewer air tickets. Now, air tickets isn't a high margin item for us. So actually selling slightly few of them is better overall for the company. So it impacted gross revenue, but it didn't impact net revenue. Our net revenue exceeded guidance and exceeded consensus.
How sensitive is the consumer that you have to the environment that we're living in, Harry? Even if you're kind of excited about this kind of record bookings environment, do you worry that consumer sentiment at this point is very fragile?
We're not seeing any cracks in consumer sentiment in our core demographics. We really sell cruises between our three brands, Norwegian Cruise Line, Oceanic Cruises, and Regent 7 Sea Cruises across all demographic fronts, but mostly to higher net worth individuals. And sentiment within the higher net worth individuals, it continues to be really high. Couple that with the huge gap in vacation experience between us and the alternative vacations, plus a value gap that cruises are priced less than hotels despite having a better experience. And we're really seeing demand continue to outperform our expectations despite any cracks that we see in other parts of the economy.